So, hi, I'm here with Jeff Vance, and a noted journalist who I've had the pleasure of getting to know the last few months. And it's kind of interesting Jeff and I had a conversation not too long ago, and I wanted to share kind of some of that with you today. Uh, Jeff, one of the things that, we talked about was how life has changed for Journalist 2.0. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on, Steve. Yeah, life's changed a lot for Journalist 2.0. My first job out of college, I was a writer and a producer for a PBS station, and of course, being a young guy, when the times got tough, the economy got tough, I got laid off. I went back to school and spent some time in graduate school, but my next job as a journalist was editing high-tech magazines. And again, the economy tanked. This would have been right after the dot-com bust. And, there was a lot of consolidation. The two magazines I was editing got just ceased to exist, So I was I have a foot in both those worlds. I started as a traditional journalist, and I had newspaper jobs and things like that, where you have an institution behind you. You have you have advantages of having that institution behind you. You don't worry about sales, for instance. You just worry about good news and cultivating sources and finding good story angles. And then you also have the other benefits that come with that institution, such as the institutional knowledge. Say you're covering the city courthouse. You have all that institutional knowledge of from the journalist, some old guy who's there who tells you, okay, this is the way things are done. Today, even if I still had a job at, say, the LA Times, with all of the media consolidation, with all the buyouts of senior level journalists, the institutional advantages are disappearing, at least for you as a worker. Now for the owners, probably they're even better, and for stakeholders, for shareholders, those institutional advantages accrue to them. For the journalist, I think it's tougher to you don't have the advantages of being associated with those institutions. So I think more and more people, it's not necessarily going to take a layoff like it did for me, for them to start exploring new avenues for journalism. Now, also, technology plays a big part of this. If this was, 1995, and I was trying to set up my own website, my own mailing list, having a blog that people comment on, and all those things, 15 years ago, I would have needed to go back to school for, a computer science degree, or I would have had to spend a lot of money on a coder. So technology definitely makes it easier to be out on your own, doing the sort of thing I'm doing. And, it has advantages and disadvantages. You can't do as much, say, investigative reporting because you just don't have the resources to bring to bear. But I think I think that's one of the big challenges across the board for new media is how are we going to do those investigative reports, the kind of the Watergate type of stuff that you used to have, Woodward and Bernstein working on a story like that for 6 months or something before they even, put a word in print. Today, you can't do that,
Right, for you nowadays, like, what does a work week or work month look like? How do you divide your time now?
Well, now, fortunately, I've been doing this long enough that I don't really spend a lot of time pitching editors. I don't really pitch for business anymore. In the intermediate stage, when I started freelancing, I just wrote for technology hubs. I wrote for Network World, PC World, CIO, places like that. And then I started just getting inquiries from people who I'd covered in these stories, who needed a writer for a white paper or a case study or what have you. And oftentimes, those requests were coming from companies' PR folks, so that made me wake up and say, hey, when I was back in my traditional journalist role, as an editor of Mobile Internet Times and Telecom Trends, when I was on that side of the desk, PR was something, I tried to keep at arm's length, because I just didn't have enough hours in the day to deal with the constant pitches, the phone calls, the briefing requests, all of that. So, PR was always something I tried to keep at bay. Once I started working on my own and my business changed, and I started seeing, hey, PR is going to be critical to this new nebulous role of, independent journalist that I'm carving out for myself. So that changed how I did things a lot once I woke up to that. Now how my days are I try to de-emphasize a lot of the traditional reporting, and I brought on another writer to do a lot of that stuff, because what I do more of now is I have my own blog, I have my newsletter that goes out to the majority of the subscribers are senior level PR people, but there are also a lot of internal marcom. I spend more of my time on that and more of my time on just, I guess you would call it, relationship building, some of the social media stuff, and then also new business ventures. Since I've spent a lot of time building up a subscriber base for my newsletters and things like that, now I know how to do that. And so there are plenty of other topics that I think, oh, wow, yeah, this works so great for a PR audience. PR loves it. But hey, I have interest in X, Y, and Z that I'd like to follow too. And more of that stuff will be coming in the new year. But yeah, it changes. So now I emphasize more of the social stuff. I go to more trade shows so I can meet people. So my business now, I'm less of a journalist, although I still do write a lot of my own stories and everything that runs under my byline. I come in even if I outsource it to other writers, I come in at the beginning of the process to, set the framework, the outline of what the story will be about, to point to some sources, and then of course I come in probably 3/4 of the way through to start editing it to my style, my voice, to vet some things that might seem off or what have you. So yeah, really, as much as if you would have told me 20 years ago I'd be a manager, not even a manager the way a typical editor is, but more of a business manager, I would have argued vehemently that I would never do that sort of thing. But that's what happens when you start carving out this kind of role in this new journalism 2.0 world. Somebody has to maintain these relationships, because in this economy, that's where all the value is. The value is in establishing relationships with people who you can help out, and they can help out you, and who your knowledge syncs well together, so that you get that synergy from working together.